thought a great thing to do, that's where the economic development comes in. How do we get all these new people, and even our own residents, to get off the trail if they choose to, and come into our centers? So at the same time, Bruce and the Bicycle Advisory Committee wanted to have Wayfinder signage along the trails. So the two of us combined our efforts, and we hired SLR. They used to be Malone and McBroom, so you may be more familiar with that name. But they came, and Bruce and I spent some time with them, and we walked around the different areas of the trails. We told them some of the ideas that we wanted in terms of branding and colors and things of that nature. And they came and did a report for us, which Bruce will go over. And so really there's two phases that we're going to be talking to you about. The first one is those types of signs along the different intersections of the trails that are really there to show people where are our amenities and how can we get into our different centers. And then the other part, which is really a phase two, and we'll talk to you more about at the end, is gateway signage. And the reason for that, as you guys might have heard, we are looking at different gateways that come into town. And are those gateways properly signed? Shouldn't there be, should there be public art? Should there be really something that says you've arrived, whether you've arrived in Unionville or in Farmington? So that really becomes phase two. And because we were looking at the different trail intersections in the Unionville section, and because recently we have a new pocket park that's right over the bridge where the liquor store used to be, we thought that could be a wonderful gateway into Unionville with an appropriate signage, and maybe even a little kiosk next to this public gateway sign that, again, if somebody goes up to it, can figure out what is in little downtown Unionville. I have not only heard these requests from some of our businesses that say, nobody even knows we're here, we need signage. And then one particular request, which I thought was pretty funny, they called my office and they said, we commute through Unionville twice a day, every day, because we go to Hartford. And a lot of times we're stuck in traffic, and we look around and it looks like such a cute area, but we don't know where anything is. Because when you're just on Route 4, you really wonder, what is in this little area? She goes, wouldn't it be great if I'm stuck in traffic, if you can have some type of arrow showing me where to go? So between that and different residents telling me we would like some nice signage, we decided, since we have this consultant, we might as well have him think of a few sketches just to give us an idea. And then we really need you guys to say, yes, we think this is a good idea, or no, we don't. We like these locations, or we don't like them. We like some of these concepts. And maybe really the next step is a little subcommittee gets formed from some of you right here. We continue working with that consultant. We have public engagement meetings to really come up with something that is really organically something that the community is choosing. So that's kind of what we're going to do tonight. Bruce is going to pick up where I leave off. He's going to show you about that short-term goal, those signage, around the trails, and then we'll finish with some images on what gateway signage might look like. So, Bruce, take it away.
Thank you, Rose. And Bruce here. This is the planner. Sorry. So, as Rose was saying, I work with the Bicycle Advisory Committee as well, and the same thing. They've been saying we need to get people off the bike trails so they know where things are, and let's get some economic development going on. So what we did is we've been meeting with them, came up with some ideas. Again, Rose said met with SLR, so here's our little presentation. Next slide, please.
Maybe. There you go.
So this is an example of the pocket park. This is what Rose will be talking about after. This is what we're talking about, the gateway sign, something in this area. And this is a typical example of what we have on right now. This is the depot building. We've got a bunch of signs. This is what we're looking at, something like this, and to get rid of all of these other signs, the Unionville Center, bike routes, all those signs, get rid of all this sign clutter and to clean it up. So, next please. So as part of the presentation, again, looking to get people off places like Jordan's, Apricot, River's Edge, looking to people find these places, know where they are, and go from there. Next one. So what we did is, the goal in this was we didn't want anything too expensive. I mean, we want something that can be replaceable, easy to construct. So if it does get damaged, by a car, we're not going to have a 6-month lead time to get this stuff all repaired. So it's going to be durable, assist in the branding of the center, and correspond with the existing amenities that we have out there now. So as you see, we've got the existing lights out there, some banners, some pedestrian lighting, the bridge. So just trying to blend everything in with that work there. Next slide. So by taking that, the next step is to look at these and say, all right, what are we looking for? There's different things from a placard type sign to symbols, directional signs, and posts. So all these things were stuff we looked at to try to figure out what we could do. So go to the next one, please. Again, this is just a simple map showing the gateway, the kiosks, the pedestrian intersection signs, destination signs, which I don't think we're going to have, and then the public art that Rose will talk about at the gate. So, again, what we're here for is the bike sign. All right, so we're looking for feedback from both of the divisions, so we can take that, make some modifications, and get these things out for pricing grants if they're available in our town, and accommodation of town funds. So, all right, go to the next one. Next, that. So this is what we've come up with. So what we're looking at is mimicking the existing signs and existing light poles that we have out there now. All right, so we can stick with the black, stick with these directional arrows. Again, there's lots of talk on what are we going to do with those. Are we going to put an icon in there? Words, so it'll be like restaurants, maybe even first aid. If someone needs to get a Band-Aid, the CVS is over there. So the intent is for these at the intersection. We've also talked about possibly expanding this at some point, maybe putting these, as Rose was saying, the people were asking where are all the restaurants. So maybe doing something at the intersection of Mill Street, things like that, expanding, but sticking with this right now for the crossing of the bike trail, and then those could come back. Those could come back later. So with that, we thought of different options. And let me back up. I forgot to mention these will also be going throughout other sections of town. All right, along the bike trail. So for example, they could be at Red Oak, down by Tungus Mead, arrow down to Farmington Center, Miss Porter's, just all over the place, looking at the new midpoint development when they lower the trail, putting signs to get off of there. So this will be the standard, okay? And since it's in Unionville, we're going to start there. We figured we'd meet with you guys to set the standard and go from there. So with that, we'll have different possible bases for different areas, But right now, we were thinking possibly going with a light pole standard. There's also one where they have one with like a steel beam as part of that. We've got a brick base, and then we've got a wood or a PVC, kind of like a column type look. All with the same standard pole on top and signs facing on there as well. All right. Also talked about possibly going with a smart app scanner. So it would be a little circle. All right. It could be a little.
Like a QR code.
Thank you. The QR codes. So you can go up with your phone, scan it, and what it'll do is it'll pop up Rose's Explore Farmington apps website showing all the businesses on town. And we've talked about possibly expanding that where it could say you are here. So therefore, it would be great. You could see where you are compared to where everything else is in town. That could be a little better because, as you know, with the kiosks and stuff, they just become so cluttered, and someone's got to maintain them, changing the restaurant's name. Rose takes care of this through her app, so it's a very simple thing. Everybody has a phone nowadays, so that's kind of where the way I think it would go with that. Next one after that. And then, this is something we started looking at for the bike trails, for the kiosks. However, there are some tight areas, we already have some at the parking lots now. Okay, so we thought about maybe doing something down by the depot, but there's just, as you know, it's very tight on the bike trail, there's not a lot of room, so that's where we came into Rose, maybe matching this up with what she's looking at doing with the crosswalk. So this is something that we could be using down there as well. So as you can see, we're talking about putting them up there, but they don't fit. I think it's very tight to go in that area. And that's a public art, sorry. And the next one's Rose. So if you don't mind going back to the other ones here, right there. So any initial comments, thoughts, things, are we far off base? Are we close? Any other ideas anybody would have?
Could you put the kiosk in the pocket park?
Yes, that's what Rose will talk about.
Not at the actual bike trail crossing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we thought that the kiosk would be very beneficial because it really allows the user to be interactive and try to find what he or she may be looking for. And we thought with a little bit more space in the pocket park, it could really, and that pocket park is slated to also have a bike rack. So if they're on a bike, they can put their bicycle in the rack, they can then walk right into town. We can say in this kiosk, so many miles to Pomona Pete's or, to a restaurant or whatever, and especially tied to that Explore Farmington map.
You just have to get them drawn to the pocket park from a block away.
Yes, exactly.
Away.
And that's a little bit of the thought behind having a big gateway. But again, these are some of the challenges we face. Originally, we did want to put one of those, thinner kiosks in that, in the different intersections. Or do we do those kiosks in the parking lots when people go to park their car? The problem is that they already have those kiosks there. And although they're a little bit on the older side because sometimes the maps fade and we want to make it a little bit, more with a little bit of technology that things can upload almost automatically, we did struggle with trying to figure out where can we put those. So we're still looking at that option with SLR, but the main one that we looked at was right in, that intersection when people cross over the depot. We just felt this would be perfect, but again, we're having trouble trying to safely fit it there.
So as Rose said, I think the intent is to get people off the bike trails to these signs, to these other kiosks.
Are you planning on using, I really like the light pole look.
This one right here?
Over the rest of them. Are you planning on using the others in different areas?
Maybe, in other sections of the town, possibly.
Yes.
We talked about maybe doing something, we could stick with just this standard, and it's kind of open right now. We're looking, and maybe we use this down by the Red Oak Hill Road for the trail. That's a different section. I think the focus was, because Unionville is a district of its own in terms of its, what's the word I'm looking for, the architecture and things like that. We felt, like I said, we came here to start it. You guys are going to be the one that kicks this off and makes us go with a certain panel. We'll take it from there in terms of the other side.
And if you look at the bases, the SLR did provide different bases. So for example, perhaps the first one is the one that we like the best because we felt that would match the existing light poles. But then perhaps the one at the very end, the wood with the PVC, perhaps that one might be better suited if we put one of these signages right in the Farmington Village next to Miss Porter's school. We don't know. We just started, that's why they gave us the different bases so that each area of town that has its own personality could have, the consistency of the top. Everybody should know, oh, that's our directional signs in town. And then the bottom bases really start to make it unique to where the location of it is.
I like the idea of the light poles because it's ready to install, it's cast, it doesn't need any additional labor to construct or put together the bases, and then if you have consistency throughout, it's easily recognizable no matter where you are in town. That's an informational signage I need to pay attention to.
Yeah, that's what we
And it's more durable. The other ones could be vandalized and
Like I said, we thought, you know, there's different,
deteriorate.
those could be different things, and the brick may be more for the midpoint development, you know.
And that's, just say that, you know, the steel beam concept is kind of interesting too. You know, it relates back to the rail line, and, you know, the top of the pole reminds me of the light poles that are in Unionville, but I don't know, I mean, I agree, I think the first option is nice, but, you know, having something that kind of relates back to maybe the industrial nature of Unionville, the rail line, kind of interesting versus sort of just a traditional, like, colonial base on a pole that we see everywhere.
And that's even more durable than the...
Yeah, the steel beam would be real durable too. It could be Corten, or it could be painted black, I don't know, you know, that was interesting.
Can I just ask a question about who's going to be looking at these signs? So you've got two different examples of signs you've shown us. One are these poles with the sort of gentle directional signage about where things are. And then you've got the kiosk. So the poles would be somehow on the trails themselves or at sort of an intersection of the trail itself. So the people looking at these would be walking? Or do you also intend these to be seen and used by people in cars?
Right now, I think the focus is gonna be for the bike trails themselves. As I
So you'd
said,
be, yeah,
we talked about possibly in the future, depending on how this goes, we may take one of these and put it at the intersection of Mill Street. You know, to get people to go down Mill Street where Peak is, and because that's so hidden back there, is get people, just say restaurants or something, keep it simple, not
Yeah.
getting into names, because we don't want to be changing the signs constantly, but that was the intention of possibly expanding this even further.
okay. And then the kiosks, those look like they're features that someone needs to walk up to get information. You can't drive by it. It needs to be in a location where people are able to park and walk up to. Is that the case?
Exactly.
The kiosks.
Yeah, and the kiosk, like I said, Rose will get into the kiosk because that kind of mimics into where she's talking about doing a pocket park.
Oh, I see. You're splitting up the presentation. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
The idea of putting that QR code on the poles, you said that to me 3 years ago, I always said you'd be crazy. But everybody's gone to restaurants to look at a menu, and you can't do it any other way other than with your phone.
Right, yeah.
It's
So
true.
people are used to doing that.
Yeah.
And wherever you are, I mean, that's just a solid symbol, right? It's not, maybe it needs to get cleaned once in a while, but
And with that, there's no printing of maps, there's no,
Right.
you know,
Right.
names change constantly.
yeah, and if you had, like you said, if you had a "You Are Here"
Yep.
symbol for that particular pole, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That's what we're.
I agree.
Yes.
I didn't see any mention of the Unionville Museum, and so I was wondering if you're planning to put that sort of information
Again,
on.
right now, I mean, we could do a museum plaque on here. Again, you know, or does that plaque, I mean, that would pop up on the smart scanner. It would be, you know, we could have the Unionville Museum. I think it's on there already, isn't it?
Yeah, if you, I mean, Shannon, I don't know if you can get on Explore Farmington real quick, just so you could see what the map looks like now. That's right. Okay, so then if you go to guides on the top there, and you, oh no, go to places, I apologize, places. So right now, this is on the Explore Farmington website. And so so that QR code would go, we would coordinate with our website designer, and he would place you wherever that pole is. This pole would then be placed wherever it is, and it would say, you are here, and then the person can start to look. And if it's public resources or services or cultural and recreational things, they toggle, and then they can find exactly where they are. And this is updated, so the different restaurants and shops, they upload themselves right on. So if you look at Unionville Museum, and you tap on it, it will, go up a little bit.
Sorry, yeah, all right, hang on, gotcha, sorry.
And then, so each one of these things gives you the information of what it is, the hours and the address, and then you can visit their website. So whether it's a resource, whether it's, you could go to one of the restaurants, you know, Pomona Pizza's right where you're, or go to George's, and there we go.
And then
So
like I
we
said,
would
yeah,
work with the designer, our website designer, to wherever we place that pole, he would then do the coordination. That is way above my understanding.
and then that, and like I said, these signs can expand by, as we said, you could possibly put one at Mill Street. You know, you could have a museum sign, you could have a restaurant sign, you could have, fast, you know, all kinds of different signs, you know, little placards on top pointing you in the different directions.
Or are you thinking just sort of general wayfinding as well, like you come out, like you said, you come out of the bike path onto Red Oak Hill and you kind of need to know, well, is Unionville that way, or, you know, or you know, Avon that way, Farmington, Plainville that way?
It's funny you should say that, because we actually have identified the different areas that we know we want to kind of concentrate on. I think we had like 5 or 6, like we had the River Road, and then we had Depot, and then we went to Red Oak, and then we went to Midpoint, because if that gets approved, that big project, part of that project on Farmington Avenue is asking the developer to really take the trails that are there now and start to lower them so that it makes it more accessible. So we're going to need signage there. And then, again, bringing people more into town. And what you say is very true, because remember, this came about a little bit. It got, you know, we've been working on it, but finally COVID kind of pushed it, because we have so many people not from the area. So we want to show them, where's Farmington, where's Avon, where's Simsbury.
Like the others, I really like the light post idea. I like I understand the concept of the steel beam, and it's intriguing, but I like the, you know, matching the light poles, I think, a little bit better. And I could see maybe in different sections of town, maybe the other bases, but I really prefer the one we have, and I think the QR codes are just a home run. I think more so than the kiosks, that those will get used.
Some of us old timers were thinking that
Oh, I had to fight with him, because he did not want it. And I said, no, we have to. He finally came around,
It's all right.
So will there be a plan that shows where they are? Would they be on both sides of 177 on Depot Place?
Right now, they'll be on both sides of 177.
And most of the intersections, they would be on both sides?
That's future facing, and that's something like that, we'll take it from there, and, and right now, this is just, the main part is to get these things designed right, get some pricing together, and then as the funds and the grants come in, because I think these poles, it's been a while, I don't know how much those poles were, I want to say they were going to be, with the pole and the sign, you're probably talking maybe $3,000 to $5,000 probably, in that range, per pole. So I think we'll be working on those, and these will be getting increased throughout as we go around. And as Rose said, as we get more people saying, hey, look, you know what, that's great, I want one over here. You're like, oh yeah, you know what, that's a great idea. And then these can probably get put down in Farmington Center, so people walking through the center, Miss Porter's this way, all different things. So that's kind of the intent on these.
Sounds great.
Do we want to move to the second part and have Rose talk about the gateway signs?
Are we good? We think the consensus is the light pole?
Yes.
All right, we'll go ahead with that. Oh, I didn't have that clip there.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and move ahead with that one. Thank you.
We can always
Thank you
come
very
back
much.
if there's other comments saying that, but we'll keep moving ahead, and then there'll be opportunity for additional
Go ahead, Rose.
chat and discussion.
So I consider this part, you know, very exciting and also very anxiety producing for me because, you know, everybody has an opinion, right? So the pocket park was the first place, and for a number of reasons. One, it is a gateway into town, and two, a lot of people were very concerned and have called us because the sign that was replaced, and it now says Unionville, it's
Educational
yeah,
radio station.
the educational, you know what I'm talking about, a depot place, and a lot of people are, one, it doesn't even say Unionville, that's big enough, it's not saying entering Unionville, but that really, as I explained to people, that's not our gateway sign. That really is the continuing ed. It could be like a, you know, TJ Maxx wanting to put their sign up, that, you know what I mean? So I think people got it confused. So, but we do need a gateway sign. So we thought the pocket park will be perfect. And in the pocket park, we're envisioning some type of sculpture, public art, something that tells you you've arrived in Unionville, bike racks, so that benches, and a kiosk. That's what we're envisioning, to really make that area a little refuge, to make it an area of information, to make it a gateway, and to, again, allow people, if they want to get off that trail, that they can put their bikes there and move on. So this is what we told the consultants that we wanted. So this is what they came up with. And again, this is not what we're doing. We're telling you so that you guys could get your creative juices and this little subcommittee could really move forward and find out what should we do.
And we'll definitely be back at a different day with a different, you know, with culmination.
Oh, God, yes. All right, so let's go to,
So do you want to
yeah.
just keep going? Okay.
Yeah, so this is what they came up with. And again, this is not where we're going unless, you know, maybe it is where we end up. We don't know. But something to this effect. Now, if you look at this, the consultants came up with this to really start to reflect some of Unionville. And the first sketch, the town seal would go right here. This is like a little bench for a photo spot because a lot of people, when they visit a new area, love to take a picture with the name of the area. And this is where they got the idea from. So it really would tell you you've arrived to Unionville. But again, to me, as much as it seems like, oh, this would be kind of cool, and then all of a sudden, once it goes up, we're stuck with it, right? So I think it really needs a lot of thought behind it. What do we want that gateway to look like? So this is just a concept of what would happen. Then if we move further, so this is the pocket park, and what they've done here, they wanted to show really the size, because this little pocket park, you know, is empty. So they were trying to give us a sense of how big should it be, because you don't want a little sign. You really want it to become a gateway. So this is that picture. Now this example that they gave us, this is how it would be for Unionville. And this again is a photo shoot, so people can, you know, run up. This would be a person, you know, and they could hold it up and take their picture, and painted aluminum, a concrete bench here, so if people wanted to sit there. And again, just another concept, and here's what it looks like in real life somewhere else. Something else that I really liked was, you know, just a very simple black wrought iron, you know, saying Unionville. We don't know. But we want it to be substantial. We wanted to kind of say, okay, you've arrived, and we want it to be filled with information.
And we also talked about a backdrop behind there. because right now because with that, you may lose that sign, so we were talking a backdrop of some plantings.
Some trees, some landscaping to soften it, to, enhance it.
How about lighting?
Lighting, we did talk about lighting, and that's important too, but we didn't feel we could go to lighting until we kind of have the concept of what it looks like, because the lighting would have to match with whatever concept we wanted to go with.
But there would be lighting.
I think, that definitely needs to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Lighting.
Okay, Shannon, you're taking notes, you want to go to this?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, there we go. There's one down.
So this is just where the pocket park is, just so everyone knows. It's right across from Tap Rock. And then the other one is that, I didn't forget that woman who called me, who's always on Farmington Avenue. And a couple of residents from Unionville have said to me too, wouldn't it be nice if we had something, right? There's so many people travel on that avenue. So again, something like the size, we have the consultant really start to explain to us and show us, because it was important for us to put it into perspective. And then.
You're talking Brooks Park, right?
Yeah.
Brooks Pond, correct. Yeah, Brooks Pond.
But again, this is all up for discussion. That's why we've asked you to come tonight. And we wanted, to hear from all of you. And are we in the right direction? Do you think it's necessary? Should we have 2 gateway signs there? What do you think they should look like? Some of these initial thoughts. And this is definitely phase 2. So the short-term goal is really putting those directional signs, as Bruce said. And then this is going to require, in my opinion, a little bit further deliberation and work.
What would happen with the existing signs on the edges of town? Would those continue to stay, or would
Which
those?
ones?
At the edges of town, there's the welcome to Farmington, like coming down West Avon Road. There's one.
No, they would stay. We would never, there hasn't been any discussion, of taking those off.
This is more about the arrival to the center as opposed to entering town boundaries.
Yeah.
Which is really what those other signs do, although some of them are, some are the green, the aluminum green and white sign, and some of them are more decorative, but.
I'll be honest with you, some of us gasped more than others when we saw some of these, and we're like, they kind of wear on you after a while, so we, at this point we said, we've got to get something out to the 2 groups to look at and gauge their first initial responses as well.
And I think another important, component of whatever gets decided is really to, once a subcommittee kind of has their ideas, they work with the consultants to try to refine it and get it the way everyone likes, is really to get community input, to have a meeting and to show it to as many people as we can, and, let them, maybe we have 2 concepts and people can vote, we can really make it kind of fun. And,
Could you make it a design competition of some kind?
Rose said, I was thinking the same thing, that's a great idea.
That wouldn't be too hard to administer for you guys.
I don't think it would be too hard to administer, but I just think this is so important. I don't know, I guess we could, do a call out to artists.
Yeah.
Or do an RFQ to, I want it to be done professionally.
Yeah, that's what I mean, rather than the consultants doing it, we have real artists do it.
That's a great option.
I just think it's very important that it become an art installation as opposed to a sign.
I do too, that's why we called it.
And I'm pleasantly surprised with all the ideas in the sense that they feel like they're art.
They do, yeah.
And they don't feel like a sign. I don't need a sign that says, "Welcome to Farmington." I know that I'm in Farmington. And I think it's something that you would drive by every day, and especially since our gateways, you don't go by them quickly. You sit there for a while. I think.
More than others, but.
I think it becomes something that, and especially with the lighting, as several people mentioned, a soft glow, even a reflection. I've seen signs like this in a reflecting pool and the water just kind of,
Yeah.
there's just something with a little bit of breeze, the light coming off the water and it reflects on the letters. All those kinds of things that make it something that is just very elegant and something that you're not really reading, but you're digesting what it is, right?
Mm.
This is my, as I said, my favorite part of the work, and also the most, anxiety producing. It was equally like, oh no, and, but also, to me, obviously, I like to me, I found this much more interesting than the directional signs. But Bruce, being our engineer, he was all about those directional signs, and those are the ones that are going to get us where we have to go. So it's very important. And as Bruce said, it has to be functional. It has to have a great design. We have to be able to replace them easily if, somebody crashes into them, which can happen easily. So, of course, to me, all those things didn't even matter. I'm like, but are they going to look good? So then he continued with the directional signs, and I moved over to public art.
Steve, go ahead, what do you got for us?
I like them both. And I like this one especially because it's kind of sculptural. I think this one would fit really well in the pocket park because it's compact.
Right.
The longer one fits with the long rectangle of Brooks Commons.
That's what we thought.
And just to clarify, are there going to be kiosks in both parks? Or just the one in Pocket?
So far, we've only discussed having the kiosk in the Pocket Park because most people who are walking, we're thinking are going to walk from the trail, and Brooks Commons is really more of a commuter.
Drive by.
Yeah.
Question would be, do we support two separate signs, or should it be one sign for both locations? Does it deserve two separate art?
I think so.
Again, I don't know, I'm throwing it out there. Just as a,
One of the things I was thinking about, for people who don't know the area and they're in traffic, if that happens, around. So if they saw the sign up by where Parsons Chevy used to be, if you saw the sign and you saw the website somehow, Explore Farmington, somebody could do that before they even get to the, to the country club.
while they're driving.
I don't think we want to encourage them.
No, I'm not saying that, but you have plenty of time.
Passengers in the car,
Self-driving cars.
or the self-driving
Because I
car.
don't think a lot of people who are away from this area would know to look for Explore Farmington.
I agree. And, listen, I'm gonna tell you something. For 3 years, I've been working on Explore Farmington, and today, one of my commissioners was like, what is that website that you did? I'm like, so a lot of people even here don't know about Explore Farmington. So it takes a while to adopt these things, but it's funny you mentioned the Parsons, because that is going to be another gateway area. And, because that looks like we're going to be moving to a modified open space, and it's going to be a lot of green space, and they will be that's one of the things we had to work with DOT to get it as open space, and the reason it's going to be modified open space is because we had to tell DOT what exactly we were going to allow on that property. And so one of the things is an art installation to serve as a gateway into town. So that's definitely one of the others.
The town is buying that property, right?
Excuse me?
The town is buying the property.
We're buying that property. So before, we were thinking of buying it for economic development purposes and getting a developer to develop it. And the DOT gave us, the way they do it is the average of 2 appraisals. So they came out to be $2 million. So when we really looked at it and the town council looked at it, they felt that there were just as many people who didn't want it developed as those people who wanted it developed. And they said, it's already so congested there. Instead, why are we going to pay $2 million? And we even did an RFP calling all developers, would you like, give us your ideas on what you would like to do. We did not receive one response, and this was before COVID. Why? Because the area is only an acre and a half. There's an easement going through it. It's a very congested area, and it didn't really allow for the type of density one would need to develop it and make a profit out of it. And so we're really quite happy that we kind of pivoted, and now it's going to be modified open space, and we can get it from DOT for only $1,000. So that's a big difference from $2 million. So now we feel we will have, you know, how is Parsons going to be designed? What kind of a gateway will it have? How are we going to work with the Historical Society, give access to a proposed new welcome center, which would be fabulous for the town? How are we going to add some additional parking spots so that people and the stores around there and the little restaurants, right now, you can't even get to the green because where are you going to park? Where do you park your car to then hang out at the green? So we're going to add some parking area. We're going to have a gateway. We're going to have access to the Farmington Historical Welcome Center. And we even put in there the possibility that if the Farmington Historical Society wants to re-erect what used to be that historical home that's in storage, that could be put up there too. So that area will really become a community area and also a gateway into the village.
That's what I was going to ask about parking, because even down at the Pocket Park here in Unionville,
yeah.
If you're driving by and you say, gee, that would be really interesting, where do you go?
Yeah.
You know, if you're not familiar with the area, you don't realize that the shopping center is right there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
parking.
another direction.
Yeah, parking.
Yeah.
And those are the things we need to kind of, drill down. Because it's easy to know we want to put restaurants, shopping, but you're right, we do need to put parking. We do need to.
Parking at that spot would be very tough. I don't know if you can do anything.
Well, you can park at Depot.
Oh, yeah, park there.
You know, you park there.
You've got to realize that.
You have to realize, you might have already passed it.
Didn't realize that there was open parking.
Yes, yes.
There are stores, there are things there, you may not be able to park there,
Yeah.
so you've got to, yeah.
Yeah, Lynn.
Shannon, could you go back to the Brooks comment?
That's it right there.
Yeah, I was curious, I think that's a great location, but I was also curious about alternatively, the intersection of 4 and 177, isn't there like a curved bend and a wall in front of the, I don't know, is there?
Santander, in front of Santander.
In front of the
no.
cemetery.
The other corner.
In front of the cemetery, like I imagine there's.
Oh, that beautiful, oh, yes.
Yeah, I
Beautiful
mean, I just
cemetery.
wonder, like, this location.
Put it in
with
front of the
park-
wall, in front of the stone wall.
Like, would more people see that? Is that more of a gateway than across from the exit to Stop and Shop? I mean, I think they're both cool locations. I just wonder if some consideration should be given.
Yeah, I agree, that is a good idea. I just would hate to cover, well, I think that on that corner, a lot of people coming into Unionville would see it, but I think, like, I drive that way home all the time,
Yeah.
and I'm just crossing. I don't know if I
Yeah,
would
where
see
the big
it.
pine tree is.
Yeah.
Which, is owned by the town. So,
But you don't necessarily want this public art to be announce a gateway, is that right? The art is separate from I'm confused about, you've got art and then you've also got a gateway sign. Which do you want this to be? Or do you want it to be both?
No, the art would be the gateway sign.
It would be the gateway sign, yeah.
And
So,
that's our idea right now, it doesn't have to stay that way.
okay,
That the group decides, you know what, we want a more traditional, we don't want it to look like public art, we don't want it to look like a sculpture. That's why we're here tonight.
That's a little bit where my question was coming from, is when I think gateway, I think you're entering that space, whereas you describe the art more as the center, just, identifying the center,
you've arrived.
which is why I asked
Yeah.
about those signs that are on the edges
Yes,
of town. I see those as gateway signs,
yeah.
because you're entering the town.
But you don't think that entering from 177 into, I consider that a gateway, but it could be just me.
So
Like 5 corners.
part of it comes from hearing conversations around town about the conflicts around, you're entering Unionville, but it says welcome to Farmington.
Yeah,
So again, that's where I'm kind of trying to balance this
Yeah.
idea of gateway signs versus destination signs.
yeah.
The art seems more like a destination sign.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's just, it's the destination, I guess, it's a gateway of the center.
Yeah.
That we're talking about, really more than a gateway of Unionville.
Right.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
if we were gonna gateway of Unionville, we were coming all the way down
Right.
to Unionville,
Right.
starting,
Right.
I think Snowberry actually is still as a
The postal,
Unionville,
yeah.
right,
Right.
so we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, the commercial, so we're talking about commercial gateways really, as opposed to town boundary gateways. So this would be more of a commercial gateway as you're coming into, right, coming into Unionville, heading over the bridge and into this hub of
Yeah.
activity here.
But that's
That's
really
where
only a
struggle is.
quarter of the traffic.
Yeah.
Only a quarter of the people are coming, I mean, I don't ever, when I go there, I'm going to Stop and Shop, I come on Route 4, you know? People come
Well, that's
from
why
all
we
different
thought
places, so,
going from putting one on 77 and one on Route 4.
yeah.
Either here or
Yeah.
Miles is suggesting is over here
Yeah.
at this intersection.
Yeah, because to me, Sanford and Hawley is the gateway to Unionville, right? I mean,
No,
it's,
that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
that's one of the knowledgeable lines.
But you do have a point.
And we don't, the town doesn't own Sanford and Hawley, so we can't put a public, no.
Well, there's also the pocket park that's down by the river there.
Yes, that's true too.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like you should liberate yourself from the idea of gateway art. You just pick a location, sort of as Matt was saying in the center, saying you've arrived in the commercial retail area, and don't burden yourself with the idea of making it a sign that announces you're in Unionville, but rather liberate yourself to say there could be just a spectacular or a lovely or a eye-catching piece of art there that fits the space that you have. You know, that the pocket park, maybe it's a piece of art you could actually kind of go around and look 360, but if you do something in Brooks Commons, that's not possible. So I think maybe separating the two so that you're liberated to do art that fits the space that you've chosen, but you do something else to say you've come into Unionville or you've come into Farmington. Do you know what I'm saying? Kind of separate the two. Don't make one do two jobs.
It would almost make more sense to use the text, the art with the text of Unionville in that center area, Brooks Common or the five corners there in the center of Unionville, and do some other type of art installation at the pocket park across from Tap Rock that might be representative of Unionville, but doesn't say Unionville.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
so like
yeah.
the actual word Unionville appears in the commercial center
Yeah.
itself.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
But I kind of like that idea that maybe it shouldn't be at Brooks Commons because, you know, nobody really can get there. You know, if we want people to interact with the public art or the sculpture, maybe it should be.
But does it need to be interacted with? I mean, if the sign that's as big as tall as a person and 40 feet long,
It becomes a little bit of a touristy type thing. People want to take pictures with it and.
Those who come back, those who used to live here come back and want to.
yeah, no, an Instagram moment, so to speak.
Yeah,
But,
that's right.
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I just.
Well, don't forget, you've got Suburban Park right there in back of Brooks
Well,
Commons.
somebody had said, in our discussions, we were talking internally, should it be right in front of Suburban Park too? You know, but we ended up thinking, well, no, because Suburban Park has its own entrance, we shouldn't take away from that Suburban Park, you know, is so special. You know, that's why we decided to move it up a little bit.
I'm just going to ask this, and I'm going to sound like a wet blanket, but how many people really would come to Unionville to get their picture taken like that? I mean, I've seen them in other places, and it's very cool, but I've seen them in Nashville and LA and other places like that, but Maybe I'm wrong, tell me. I mean,
I don't know if they would come to Unionville just to take their picture there, but I think if the sign is there, people will utilize it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Rose, say it again.
I don't think people would come to Unionville just to take their picture on the Unionville sign, but I think if we have something cool like that, they would utilize it. They wouldn't come here just to take their picture at the sign, but they might utilize.
Something
I don't know.
interactive is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, okay. All right. Mm-hmm.
I had a question about the wayfinding signs. Have you, there's this gem of a spot for fishing for ADA folks that could get their wheelchair, but it's so thoroughly neglected down there. There's a bench that's broken, the surface is been, washed away by the river.
Are you talking further on Farmington Avenue?
No, I'm talking
Railroad Avenue.
Railroad Avenue,
Oh,
you
yes,
get on the
yes.
trail, and you go a short distance, and there's a nice, path down there, and it hasn't been maintained at all in the, however many years it's been there, 15 years since it's been built. And when the water came in heavy, when we had a hurricane, and the water got really high, it wiped out the railing, and that did get fixed, but not to its original circular, setup that just kind of goes out into the river a little bit.
Yeah, I think Tom Zips, called me about that just a few months ago, because I believe, I don't know if this is the exact location, but Tom Zips said he worked with, I think, Jeff Sager to do that, and they gave it to the land trust, I believe.
It
I'm
is,
not
it's the
sure.
Farmington Land Trust property, yeah. There have been
Yeah,
some
and
real
so-
issues with the water current there, kind of keeping the erosion from damaging there. It's a problem.
Yeah, that's what Tom told me, so he said, Rose, is there any, who should I contact, and, I'd like to, because I think he was one of the original people who did some improvements. So
I mean, you could even call it a scenic overlook as opposed to fishing, but, it's a gem of a place to be. It just looks like crap right now.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, that, sometimes when you have someone new in the area, you really look at something with fresh eyes. For the longest time, I had no idea how to get to the Farmington River, because I'm not from here. And so when I would ask people, they would jokingly say, we don't want you to know because you're not from here. They were teasing me, but that's something else, if we want to start, we do have to have some signage throughout town. This is just our very first step at it.
Brooks Park kind of being around the corner from Lovely Street and around the corner from Cottage Street, maybe there would be some way to even say that it's like a historic center, even though it's not a district, so to speak.
That's a good idea.
And let people know that that's there, even people who live in Farmington who maybe aren't even aware of it.
So if we were to go with something, because there seems to be different thoughts on whether or not a sign would be, an artist rendering type sign at this location as we're coming in, because I think this is one of the first, this pocket park is one of the first things that we're thinking of looking at, along with that crossing at 177, right? It's this kind of synergy of energy at that location is really item one. So some like the sign, some don't. If we were going to do art that didn't necessarily just say Unionville, so it's not a sign that's art, it's just art that represents Unionville. Anybody have does anything come to mind? What are the thoughts with going in that direction, and what can you offer us to help us go in that direction if we're going to get away from something that says Unionville at that location?
I really do think whoever brought it up earlier that that an artist competition is the way to do it. We can't, I think you need artists to come in and look at the site, give them the guidelines and specifications and see what comes to us, allow others to bring in the creative ideas. I think that was a great idea. I think that's the way to do it.
And in that way, if it becomes an iconic element, that is something that people would take their picture in front of, as opposed to a sign. I love the idea of an artistic sign. I actually like it there, in the Commons. I like it up at the Parsons property. I like it from that concept. But at the Pocket Park, I would much rather see true art than sign art at that location.
Now, I've never done anything like that before. Is it something that's, how do you get artists? Or do we just do and again, I hate to say this, but do we open it up to like the residents? Let's say, like I said, a competition like the high school where people can do it and that word gets around and the artist, hey, he's an artist, he'll come in and, they'll draw something up. I don't know, I've never done that.
I think it comes down to how you would actually execute it. Obviously a sculptor would create a piece of art and they would be then commissioned for that piece of art. If it's, my daughter, she might have a cool idea, but how is she going to physically create it, right? So I don't know how you execute that. Obviously architecturally, we deal with competitions all the time, but then as architects, we know how to execute our idea if we win it.
Right.
The school did an excellent job of painting and tunnel.
Yeah.
It looks great.
Okay.
And people commented on that all the time, and how well they did it.
Yeah,
Should be, that's.
and we're trying to do a sculpture.
I think this has to be a professional, I don't think.
Yeah, I think we just, others have done this.
And the kids have their own input and their own feelings of what Unionville is all about, right there. You're gonna get somebody from Oshkosh, Wisconsin coming in and telling you what you should be putting there.
In Connecticut and in the region that there's ways to do it. I guess I feel like it should be something where you solicit professional artists to do something there. I hear what you're saying. I think it's a nice idea, but I don't know that.
The kids are proud of their work too.
And that's kind of where I was going with that. If you open it up to the people, they feel more, like I said, they feel more involved. And it's more of a thing that when it gets done, you're never going to make everybody happy. You never make everybody happy. There'll always be someone that's going to complain. But maybe being involved more, you get more of a, everyone's in favor of it, and then you could take that sketch, and then we could commission an artist or something.
To do it.
Do something like
To do
that.
the sculpture.
And edit it if they have to, but that's all. I'm just trying to.
Because we've got to think about the foundation, right? So it's one thing to paint on an arch or an abutment and to paint and provide that, but with a sculpture, and we need it to be freestanding. So there's a foundational element, there's a weather element, there's a materials element, and there's a height and a constructability element, which is really very different than painting a mural or coming up with a logo. So we could, I think you can solicit input, but I think from an execution standpoint, it needs to be someone with a background, an artist background and sculpture background that's done this before in order to actually get this executed. So that's really what the challenge is going to be. So if we're going to take someone else's ideas and then a different person, a professional, then needs to implement it, there's naturally going to be things that have to be modified in order to accommodate it from a constructability standpoint.
Right. But I'm sure we could research public art competitions and find precedent that would be very easy to.
Yeah.
Shannon,
Yeah.
timeline, what are you guys thinking about as far as when this would get?
Wayfinding signs are more immediate, and then the art would be second, but I think the New Britain Ave Park at Park would be probably the first stepping stone on that. And then, but I don't know if there's a hard thoughts on a hard timeframe,
I don't
if the
think
thought
there
is
is. What it is-
wayfinding would be implemented by next
What it
spring?
is just trying to get something, it's, as I say, once you get the plan, and once it's done, then the funding and things follow behind it. So it's to get something in, I mean, again, do we have the money to build this right now? No. Well, once we get something approved, then we can then get the grants out there, get some volunteers, whatever you need to do, artists, pay, take up donations, whatever it is, to make this happen, the fundraisers, make it happen, and then we go from there. So, it's not gonna move anywhere if we don't come up with.
Right, but so if you came up with an idea and got through all that process next year, you can maybe build it in '23 or something?
Or start the process in '23 of fundraising,
Yeah.
grant application, whatever we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting to see if there ever were a hybrid approach where you could like put out word that we're looking for ideas, and maybe a sculptor or two come to us with, here's my design, and it's a package. You can have the whole thing. I'll do it A to Z. Or local residents, anything from kids to elders and all in between, just come up with a concept. The world likes the concept, and then you go find someone to execute on it.
We could see what's been done out there, just kind of take a look at what others have done and what the competitions are like, and maybe there's a hybrid model out there.
Out of those two, is there anyone that people don't like? I mean, is this something we would?
No, they all have merit.
No, I'm looking for initials, stay away, don't even, that is just, forget it. I mean.
I like that one for the pocket park.
All right.
So the
They both feel a
horizontal
little
one-
cartoonish to me. I just, I can't quite conceptualize them. They feel cartoonish, so.
Image examples next to them help me to see what they are, and I think, yeah, the drawing maybe is a little cartoonish, but I think that helps.
Right.
Yeah.
That one, I like the way a lot of people like to call it the Ville. And so Ville comes out, and it's just I thought it was clever.
Yeah, I think they're both interesting, and the other one, and this is like the rusted steel look, I mean, this is powder coated aluminum, but I can imagine rusted steel, and the other one, that the image with actually the colors on the top image, I think were kind of interesting too, because I feel like Unionville is kind of a colorful kind of a place. It's interesting. I don't know, either one is compelling.
Location, anyone, I mean, could be Pocket Park, Brooks Commons, and possibly the intersection of 177? Is the three options, I think.
Well, I guess, is the thought that it would be Brooks Commons and the intersection, or would it be the intersection instead of Brooks Commons, or
You would need to do
sometimes the
both.
location?
You wouldn't do both, it'd be one or the other.
Yeah.
Those are the options.
I mean, you wouldn't do both unless one was the sort of this identifying gateway, whatever we want to call it, and the other one is more pure, like a piece of sculpture or something.
I have a feeling you'd get a lot more pushback putting up a sign in front of the cemetery, in front of the old stonework, adjacent to the firehouse. I think you'd get some more pushback. Whereas Brooks Common, you have a backdrop, you have a forest, it's like an open palette, and so my vote would be for Route 4 and the Pocket Park, but we could start with Pocket Park and then, work toward, and again, in the competition, you almost, if there's a sculpture and a sign, you almost want to open it up and give them parameters, like we want this sculpture to be representative of the history of Unionville, what people identify with Unionville, so I could see a giant pioneer steel ball, I could see a chair, I could see, I-beams, and something very, that would have elements of parts of our history that people can identify with. And you just do a design concept, and then you vote for a winner, and then you hire the sculptor to fabricate it and it's representative, and it might be fun. You could give a prize or
Yeah, I think it would be fun.
a name plaque.
Yeah.
But I just think you'd get more pushback. I love the location. It's ultimate in the five corners, but for me, it's a little in your face with all this nice history and landscape I don't know, I'd prefer Brooks Common.
There's enough traffic problem there.
Yeah. But you're gonna be less likely to have that interactive effect in Brooks Common. But the pocket park is the key as far as the bike path, as far as drawing people. I mean, Collinsville has it made, you know, the path goes right through town, and the path is surrounded by shops and restaurants and green space, so they, you know, it was delivered to them, you know. Whereas we have to kind of work for it a little bit more and draw them across the bridge, and the pocket park is the key, and the signage, way signage on the trail is key, and the kiosk is key. And to cross the bridge, to enter the commercial park.
Ideas, Rose?
Yeah, I think they're fabulous ideas. I think they're all great.
You know, Lisa, you might remember in the original study from UConn and Yale, they had nuts and bolts benches.
The nuts and bolts, yeah.
So there were some things in that study that were proposed.
Yeah. And they even had tables and chairs made out of nuts and bolts, giant nuts and bolts. Yeah. We laughed about it, but it was pretty clever.
Yeah. Precariously stacked and
Yeah. Yeah.
Creating a tree in a way.
Yeah. And I think that's what a design competition would do for us. We'd have people who would, you know, if they're interested in participating, and I think we'd get good input. They'd do a little research into the history of Unionville. They'd figure things out and combine things in fresh ways that we've never thought about. And I think that would be really great.
But also important to put parameters on.
Yes.
You know. I mean, I like nudes, but we don't necessarily want nudes.
Right. Right.
Or some controversial symbolism.
Unless somebody finds something out about the history of Unionville we don't know about. Nudes might work. We'll see. Yeah.
Anybody have anything else, any other comments they want to share this evening?
The next step is for Rose and Bruce is you're going to set up a committee or how?
Remember, the first goal is to make the directional sign.
Yeah, I think you're there.
That's really where we're gonna go next.
And I think those are done, because we've got them up a bit here, so we'll take it from there, get prices and get them, and as the grants come, we get those ordered, and we get those installed.
And then as we work towards, I know that Russ is working for that pocket park, and we've discussed things in that pocket park, as I said, bike racks, a bench. We had wanted, you know, a kiosk perhaps, and a piece of sculpture of some kind. So that would probably be phase 2. And then, you know, I think it's a great idea to do that kind of a contest. And so probably we would need some type of a committee. I know that the town council will be appointing a committee to do Parsons and help with the design of it and things of that nature. And maybe the town council would appoint a committee to work on this design competition. I don't know.
Just a question about that particular park. Are they going to take into account a handicap?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's right on the, people are coming by there every day in wheelchairs and stuff like that. So I hope that's going to be a big issue.
Oh, I'm sure, and that's what I mean with Parsons, you know, the town council appointing a committee for Parsons and making sure all of that is taken care of, then, you know, maybe they'll also appoint, you know, maybe the next step should be for them to appoint a committee for that pocket park. Because, you know, a lot of it has to be looked at. That's why nothing's been done on it yet.
You might want to design the whole park.
Excuse me?
Design the whole park. I know it's small, but think about not just the artwork, but everything.
It's important. I mean, it's a very important.
So it has to be inviting
It has
for
to be inviting,
wheelchair access.
yes.
Whatever's on the kiosk has to be, if there's anything with a, you know,
That they can reach
a
too.
QR or whatever,
Yeah.
it's gotta be at that level.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll bring these ideas back to town manager and see, but the very first goal, as we said from the beginning of the evening, is those directional signs. But, you know, it was special to have all of you here tonight, so we thought, well, with these great minds, you guys could kind of tell us, how should we attack phase two? Because that's, you know, that we always knew that was a bigger issue, a bigger project, and so the first thing is the directional. And I think we've gotten such, you know, great direction tonight.
On one of those directional signs at the trail, it might be prudent to emphasize the pocket park is only 100 yards, and there's bike parking symbol, and there's the QR code, you know, shop Unionville symbol or whatever. Just to, I mean, visually it should be recognizable and inviting from the trail.
Absolutely.
But you might also benefit from actually identifying it.
Yeah.
There as well. I don't know. Great.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for coming in. We appreciate you taking the time.